It's another week in the For Your Reference household, and it is another addition to the Jonathan Wickerson Biblioteca. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. It is spicy. It is muy caliente. Thank you, friends and lovers, for joining us along in this journey. Sometimes in all of our respective journeys, actors on screen, in TV and film, and also in our hearts, leave us. And, we talked about Michael K. Williams in Breaking recently. And we'll also like to give tribute to the love and the legacy to Lance Reddick. We definitely have a Wire episode, but I will always remember, when are you going to play It's Raining Men, It's Raining Men, Hallelujah, It's Raining Men. May we dedicate all of the gay hymns, Key and Peele reference, to Lance Reddick, the life, legacy, rest in power. Let's get on with the show. Friends, and gun foo, pistol foo, reload foo, car foo, motorcycle foo, talk foo, dog foo, horse foo, knife foo, katana foo, dagger foo, cane foo, card foo, napkin foo, pencil foo, mirror foo, water foo, belt foo, doorbell foo, drum foo, stair foo, and friends and lover foo, friends and lovers.
And any other random foo you want to throw in there.
Just say you didn't make a fucking list. Welcome back to the For Your Reference podcast, where perhaps someone is more researched than the other. You got your host, Katie.
And the non-researched OT.
But ever so learned and splooshy in our household.
Mm-hmm.
Assume the fighting stance for round one of Wick notebook sketches, chonky boy action, and shadow noodle slurping. Take a seat at the high table with Jonathan Wickerson, Chapter 4, this motherfucking week.
Woo-hoo!
Woo-hoo-hoo. We were but a wee baby Seamus when we covered Jonathan Wickerson, all three films in 2019 OT.
Mm-hmm.
Who would have known we would have got to where we are today? Thank you to Haas and the team at Studio Canal. We did have the opportunity to go to the preview screening.
It did.
Balls to the wall action.
I was biting my tongue trying not to tell anyone about it.
Okay, Unique OT virus.
He's one of the lost OGs.
Yeah, that's one way to say it. Let's get into general information so we can get right into the muy caliente Donnie Yen Center.
Oh.
Not many licks will get me there, OT.
Let's see how many.
We're going to become a Donnie Yen podcast is essentially what I'm saying. In regards to director, this is very rare to have the same director 4 films into a franchise. We have the ever-loved and lauded Chad Stahelski. And I guess while we're here, I would love to see a universe where we see Chad Stahelski and Don Mancini team up together. I think I don't get paid the big bucks, but I definitely got some ideas that will absolutely stand. Speaking of, based on characters by Derek Kolstad, I did notice that he didn't have writing credits for this, which perhaps is the foreboding smoking gun, at least for me. Perhaps. In regards to writers, we have Shay Haddon, who is credited for Army of the Dead, which we enjoyed in the For Your Reference household, as well as Day Shift, which is something that we also watched in the For Your Reference household. Michael Finch credited for the 2010 Predators, as well as American Assassin. This was released out of Studio Canal in March of 2023, a budget of $90 million. And it's only been out probably less than a week right now with a worldwide gross of $137.5 million, OT.
Woohoo!
Woo-hoo-hoo. Can I get a yeehaw?
Yeehaw!
In way of cast. Wow. And we talk about a firm foundation. We absolutely have a firm foundation in this franchise. Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Rest in love and peace and power, Lance Reddick, Ian McShane. Of course, we have some newcomers that really bring some richness to Jonathan Wickerson Chapter 4. We have Donnie Yen, Hiroyuki Sanada, but we also watched an interview where Keanu Reeves said Sanada. So correct me if I'm wrong, friends and lovers. Bill Skarsgård, Shamir Anderson, as well as Clancy Brown.
Nice.
So nice. So let's get into first impressions. Like we said, friends and lovers, if you love us, you probably shouldn't listen to our old catalog. Just know that we've come very far from our early days in the podcast, but we have covered the first 3 John Wick films, and we're very excited. We were so excited that we watched all of the films leading up to 4, and I'm glad we did, because not only did it color our experience, if you'll pardon the pun, because of the beautiful color grading and cinematography, but also it's just such a fun fucking ride, man. Like, it was just nice. And we've been watching a lot of quality, definitely, but obviously a lot of heavy stuff recently, so it's nice to be able to let our hair down and keep our bosoms warm in the trusted hands in this franchise.
100%. Where can I start? It was such a thrilling, immersive experience with this high-octane action, breathtaking stunt choreography. Oh, my. I love a good world building. Can you even picture how we started from John Wick and where we've ended up?
Yeah.
And even something like the cinematography, you just notice how intense each scene is.
Yeah.
You can tell the detail they've put in, the work they've done, and we get new characters to boot.
Yeah.
Oh my, I really just love this so much. It's the encapsulation of what an action movie is. It goes above and beyond. Anything else has to fall under the table of John Wick if it labels itself action.
Yeah, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I absolutely agree. It was a tantalizing offering to an already solid franchise.
Facts.
Slick action, scrumptious visuals, and top-tier cast additions made this an epic ride.
It sure did.
We'll sit on my lap and find out, OT. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Oh, wow. It was so great. And it was so great to be in the cinema. In that preview sort of screening, we were really witnessing something really special in the time of cinema. Man. Well, we talked about Jordan Peele, how we kind of unofficially over the years have done a reference degustation. I guess in this sense, we've kind of unofficially done a Stahelski reference degustation. He's also pegged to do Ghost of Tsushima as well.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's like one in the many of the bill that he has at the moment. It's an exciting time to be in this Stahelski age, I must say. But let's do it, OT. Be like Matt Damon, because fortune favors
the brave.
It sure does. Let's do a definitive ranking. Where are the Jonathan Wickerson films sitting for you?
Oh, I'm torn. I'm torn between Parabellum and 4.
What, as the first?
That's the first.
Oh, bruh. Can we start at the bottom?
At the bottom has to be
2.
chapter 2.
Yeah, okay, agree.
And then for me, 1 follows that.
Oh, boo.
It will be a coin flip between 3 and 4.
You are not worth your weight in this town, sir. Wow.
No, you know why? You know why? If the aspects in the movie, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to it later, the aspects in the movie while we're watching that, I felt it kind of pulled me away from sort of the realism of the worlds that they've already built around John Wick.
Which is a good thing or a bad thing?
Which I felt was a bad thing.
Okay.
Because it just didn't make sense to me that much.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I noticed it, and then it kept on happening. I was like, bruh, just take a step back and let's obey the laws of this world.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Absolutely. So are we saying you can have a tied first, or do you have to give proper numbers?
Tied fast.
Okay, I have a tied first as well. So my last is chapter 2.
All right.
My third is chapter 4.
Whoa.
But it's a small margin. It's a small margin. And tied for first is chapter 1 and Parabellum.
Okay. Because it's wild. I remember so fondly watching chapter 1.
Yes.
But when we went back and rewatched it recently, I was like, there's so little in this movie that I don't know why I loved it so much. Outside of the action and story-wise, it had very little happening for it.
Okay, so like the wife wasn't worth it the 5th time watching it? She's not your she wasn't your Sura in Spartacus?
You know,
she wasn't your Tata in Narcos?
No, it just felt I didn't remember how little he had.
Oh, boo. Okay, we're going to fight. This is for your reference, not for your rankings. I'm going to fight you in these streets.
I still love it.
I'm going to push you off a 2-story building and see if you make it. Wow, really? Okay, well, I guess there's no point because, you know, if I can quote Lebowski, that's just your opinion, man. So I would say you're wrong, but I would also say that's just your opinion, man. But we've talked about this before. You know, my core is resonance and emotion. So obviously the first is the top for me. Anything above that is in credit to the first film, in my opinion, right?
Okay.
But for you, and then I guess because we're also talking about Spartacus again, you know, rest in love and peace and power, Andy Whitfield, there was a legitimate reason that they had to change the lead actor in Spartacus, right? But for me, that means it's never going to hit as hard as it did initially, because that's who I fell in love with. That's where I was. And I think for you, you have a bit more stretching and leniency with that. And you also enjoy action. So it makes sense that you would put 4 at the top. I do have like a general theme about expanding the world. So we can talk about my qualms, quarrels, and quandaries, because a lot of it is about the storytelling. But what I will say, do you have any sort of reason why 2 is at the bottom?
So it's pretty much at the epicenter of them trying to expand the world.
Yeah.
And in that, there's so many things that, you know, they're trying to put in there to continue, you know, because they're thinking about, we'll probably do 3, 4, 5, or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are aspects in the movie where I was like, this feels a bit forced a bit, you know?
Because the first John Wick was so insular, they had to build from scratch in number 2. So a lot of the emotional sort of beats that we would expect in the first, you know, was sacrificed in order to, you know, build more of a platform to work with.
By your standard, shouldn't chapter 2 be your number 1 then? Because it's pretty much the basis of what we have up until 4.
Your abacus is broken.
My abacus is functionally fine, man. All my fingers are like... Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, your fingers are fine, but your abacus is not. The math is not mathing. But the reason why I say that, keep that in mind when we talk about expanding the world. And I guess that will pepper in how I feel about chapter 4. But let's start off with some themes that we have. I do want to address the fat suit elephant in the room. I didn't realize that we had Scott Adkins in our midst.
Woo, Scott Adkins.
You know, I got a lot of time for Scott, I must say. I didn't realize until we watched interviews that he was in a fat suit. I thought we just had some chonky boy action. I thought we had some chonky boy foo. That's why it's not in the foo list at the start of the episode. I just want to address it in the sense that we acknowledge it the same way there's Colin Farrell with a fat suit in Batman as well. But what I will say is, the success or the failure isn't hinged on Scott Adkins wearing a fat suit. So I still maintain everything I said about Brendan Fraser, or whatever OT kept on what I said about Brendan Fraser taking the role of the whale in our Splooshies episode.
I hear you. It surprised me because I didn't know it was Scott Adkins as well.
Was it also like, how does this chonky boy fight for so long?
Man, he was taking John Wick to church. I was like, what's happening?
Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Non-Halle puppy, non-Halle puppy, non-Halle puppy. I thought we were going to get Halle Berry.
Yeah. Especially when the trailer showed the dog, I was like,
yeah,
is Halle Berry
don't
going to
do
return?
that. You know what you're doing. Don't do that. But apparently, Shamir Anderson met Chad Stahelski because he was working with Halle Berry
on Bruised.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to teach me this.
All right, bros. If you
my one weird flex.
If you would like to sign up to the For Your Reference curriculum of Black Cinema, only lectured by OT, please send us your social security number and your credit card details. But let's go back. Let's go back to the chonky boy action. Did the fat suit bother you so we can get out of the way and focus on other stuff?
Not really. It just felt. It felt weird, and I think this is where I started seeing a tear in the world.
Oh,
right. This is the point where I was like, okay, so Wick is being taken to the cleaners.
Yeah,
and to the point where I was like, this guy should not even be walking right now.
Wait. I actually wrote a note down. It took a chonky boy to take on Wick. Because at that point, it was like an elongated fight sequence. And I'm like, I don't think he's ever gone this long fighting someone.
And he was bleeding. He was slashed in the neck. He was shot on the butt.
Yeah.
So he's not even 100%. And he just, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
He really, this is the movie where John Wick really struggled. He struggled with almost everyone.
It was his Logan.
Yeah.
And it was his Johnny Cash, I hurt myself.
And this is the sort of tear I started seeing in the world where we get to see John Wick getting beaten up and down, landing on some, being thrown from floor to floor.
Yeah.
Guy just gets up.
Yeah.
The minute it happens to our chonky daddy,
hey,
he doesn't get up. Man's dead.
Man's not fat.
I was like, wow, explain it to me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, maybe I'm just overthinking things. But it gets worse the more it progresses.
Even this discussion is fucking ridiculous. It's not even an anime, but I do have a theme called anime canon. Well, we're kind of already talking about expanding the world, but I do want to leave that. I want to talk about the cinematography first, right? I feel like Jonathan Wilkinson, and I guess you can extend that to Chad Stahelski as well as Keanu Reeves specifically and individually. I think they're just, they're just that X that like opened me up to the world, because I never knew I could like action. I never knew I cared about aesthetics until this slick, sexy franchise came along.
Yeah.
Wow. Even if you talk about the score and the soundtrack, it's all weaved cohesively. I would say Chapter 4 is the most poppy pop culture sort of soundtrack specifically. But it all weaves together so well.
It does. And it's the most action-oriented one of the four.
Yeah, but I think just going back to the visuals, in Chapter 4, it was so... Like, this is what you see, and this is what you know, that every department that was involved in making this film had a job to do and was given the reign to do it.
Man had a job, did a job.
Jason Statham, when is Jason Statham gonna get into a fat suit and enter the ring?
Oh, it's coming.
Bruh, that will be like a 30-episode Goku Frieza sort of scenario.
Oh, we'll wait to see it.
We are learned film critics, but we're also weebs, friends and lovers. I absolutely loved, like, there are some gorgeous visuals that we talked about. We already said spoiler, but like my mind was fucking blown, man. Like all of like, even when you were inside of the Continental, and do you want to rank the Continentals? I don't know if we have time, but all of the Continentals felt so specific to the location they were in. Right? Even the one in Tokyo. And then they had, this gallery sort of space that a lot of the fighting went in as well. And then you had the shadow noodle slurping from Kane's character, which I was very much into. But it's just, and the cherry blossoms, and then we also went to France. We went to Germany. We went all around. We went all around the town. There was definitely a chonky boy budget. Or as OT would say, a chonky daddy budget that was going on. Like, there was so much, aside from how expensive it was, there was such a richness, even when he was walking into the church before he got shotgunned by the priest, like everything just looked so fucking ace, man. It
did. And it's so rare where you get an action movie like this, where you appreciate the visuals so much.
Yes.
As you do with John Wick.
Yes.
Even when you're not looking for it, it just hits you in the face.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because we've seen many action movies where it's all about, I punch you and that's it.
Yeah.
But the surrounding pays very little to what's happening on the screen.
Absolutely.
With John Wick, it's everything.
Yes.
They create an ambience for this action to manifest, for this violence to feel even more gruesome.
Yeah.
Whilst being overlaid in beauty, and you feel confused and just aroused.
I was going to say you're literally explaining what a boner is. But
yeah. I was like, fuck it. Let me just say it.
Oh, well, how am I supposed to focus after that, OT? From bonus to expanding, if you're nasty. Let's talk about expanding the world. And I really want to get into the nuts and bolts of it all. This is why it's not a top film, like in the rankings for me, is because it suffered what number 2 did, but also it was an elongation of Parabellum, right? Even before rewatching, because obviously, it's been a couple of years, it's been a couple of waves of a pandemic, so a lot has happened, friends and lovers, since we rewatched the films in 2019. But I'm so glad we rewatched it, because in my head, 2 and 3 were interchangeable, and essentially they were the same. But until we watched it again leading up to watching chapter 4, Parabellum really distilled film gold. And what I mean by that is we've got the heightened stakes of what happens when you go full fucking Rambo and you get excommunicado, and it's at its highest sort of peak. In regards to tension, in regards to action, in regards to emotional resonance. And I felt like it stayed at that level from chapter 4. At some point, we're going to need him to stop being on the outside. No, but you know what I'm saying, right?
I hear you.
He killed someone from the high table. So, yeah, you're kind of like, you said you were out, you're in. And you're going to stay in, but you got a great ass, but you're still in.
No, I hear you. I think, to me, everything made sense. It transpired quite well.
But it's the same story.
It's different, though.
Nothing has changed. He's still excommunicado.
But he's just been betrayed by Winston.
Not really betrayed.
Yes, really.
They found out that his body wasn't there. Therefore, he's not really dead.
Doesn't matter, but Winston didn't know that.
But that's the thing. It's just proximity shrapnel at that point. You see
Everything
what I'm saying?
is proximity shrapnel if you stretch it long enough. That's why you have 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yikes. What did Mr. Bacon do to you?
I'm just stating facts.
You don't want a bit of Daddy Bacon on the weekends? Slap it on the side with some maples?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, bros.
No, but I get it. I do understand it, but I think to me it felt distinct enough to stand on its own.
No, because the action was so fucking ace. Ignore the action.
No, he's actually now going against the high table. He's trying to bring them down.
All right. I would say he was already doing that in Parabellum. The only difference is you see the lasting consequences of Winston, Sharon, like everyone that helped him along the way, the consequences stuck with them. Like it doesn't just go away by the next movie. So we're still seeing the same story. So I would say I absolutely love chapter 4 for all of the action, but I'm not even an action gal. So, my pussy valley was feeling very dehydrated in some parts. Even with Shadow's noodle slurping cane.
Wow.
Yeah. You can also attend the FYR curriculum of fan fiction, only lectured by Katie. I just feel like, because, I've got a lot of time for this franchise and I will always watch, because I'm seeing a lot of people saying, like, shout outs to Rob, the best O from Smoke and Mirrors. But, they were talking about like, oh, yeah, we're done. We don't want to see like another film. I'm like, I'm in. I will watch as many films. As long as it's the same team, as long as it's the same core, I'm still in. I'm still going to watch it. But I do know that the story is suffering, and I hope that, because we also talk about like the expanding. So we have like Ballerina, which unfortunately Lance Reddick was, supposed to be in as well. We see the expanding of the world, maybe even potentially a John Wick 5 is in the cards, OT.
Pretty sure it is.
Spin-offs, tangents, universes, that sort of thing.
I think we're getting a Continental TV show as well.
Yeah, so my point is I have a lot of time and I will watch it. And I don't know, Parabellum, like I said, it's tied with the first one for me. So if I felt any sort of like deviance from what I know it to be, transcending what you think an action genre film would be, then yeah, that's why it would be less on mine. But I still enjoyed it. But I would say, and it's not just like specific to Jonathan Wickerson. We even talked about Attack on Titan. And that's also why we don't have Attack on Titan review, but we will eventually do an Attack on Titan episode. But you see what I'm saying? Like, the story needs to slow down in order for it to expand. But when that happens, it gets to a point where we're like, okay, now what? Right? So it was expanding, but it was still the same story in my personal opinion.
No, I think it's different. I think what you wanted to see is chapter 4 starting at, 5 years later. No one wants to see that shit. Continuity makes everything. And I think that's what Chad has clung on so well, and it works with John Wick.
Okay.
Because chapter 4, we just dive in where we left off.
Yeah.
We know what's happening. We don't need any more exposition. Just give us what we need.
I think, okay, so Keanu Reeves argues with the timeline, but the crew talks about, they're all close to each other, but chapter 4 is like a couple of months apart. So that's still the same story.
Yeah. But we're not removing ourselves, or John Wick isn't removed and set in a cabin somewhere. He'd run away.
Oh, Dexter.
With some
Dexter.
gray beard over here.
Uh-huh.
No. That would have just been suicide for the franchise. I think I preferred how they did it because it worked. And we had action from the first minute to the last.
There was definitely a lot of action. Let's move on. I do have action, but before we talk about the action in the film, I want to talk about anime canon. I would say that this Jonathan Wickerson chapter 4 is more anime than Creed 3.
Oh.
Friends and lovers, go and check out one of our recent Ref Maxes where we covered our thoughts and feelings about Creed 3. But in regards to Jonathan Wickerson chapter 4, the reason why I say this is so fucking anime is because, first off, we have god tier casting like throughout this whole film, right?
Mm.
What that means, especially in the hands of Stahelski, is we are going to have some primo God of War boner level action sequences, right?
Yeah.
And we're not just going to get one. We're going to get multiple action sequences with these legends across cinema, across martial arts, kung fu, stunt choreography, everything under the sun, right?
Mm.
But what that also means is we're hindering the story because we know at the end of the day, no one's really going to fucking lose or kill each other maliciously, I guess, unless we're talking about Shimazu. So the stakes are very low in that. So we can enjoy the combat, the Naruto!
Sasuke!
Naruto!
Sasuke! You're on the other side of the cliff. Come closer, please.
Please, and keep rolling down the stairs for 5 minutes because people in the audience will be laughing. Right? You know what I mean? So, like, the stakes were very low to me. I think if you accept that nothing is really going to happen in way of consequences to characters and world building, then this is a great ride.
I don't know. Like,
Were they going to kill Donnie Yen, though?
I went into this knowing that he's not going to die.
Exactly.
It's fucking Donnie Yen.
But that's what I'm saying.
But I didn't have a fault with that because who in the right mind?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Who in their right mind would add someone like Donnie Yen, who adds such a dynamic range to the movie, and then you're gonna kill him off?
Yeah, I know.
What for?
We're both saying the same thing. You're just saying it as
I appreciate it. You're not appreciating it. You're like, no stakes. I'm like, bruh, fuck stakes. If you want to watch a movie where characters die left, right, and center, go watch something else.
Okay, Vegan OT and Kobe Katie.
That would have been applicable to Green Book. They should have added characters who fucking died everywhere.
Oh, no.
Fucking movie.
Oh,
Anyway,
OT.
I think this is the first time I've mentioned it in this year. So
Are you working with Jerome Tarantino to do the movie critic? Where you just go in you just raise havoc in the Green Book world? Is that what's happening?
yeah.
I've never watched Babylon. I'm just imagining it, OT, going and fighting people in the set of Green Book.
Yeah, I'd watch that.
I would watch that too. We're both saying the same thing, bruh. That's what
We are saying the same thing, but you're taking a negative spin on it, and I'm saying
I don't think it's negative. I think there should always be stakes, especially if we're talking about an action film.
there are stakes.
Mm.
Spoiler again: if you watch this movie, Wick dies.
Does he though?
That's the biggest stake you can get.
We're watching Power right now, and people think Ghost is still alive.
Yeah, I know.
Amari Hardwick is busy doing other things. He's not coming back to Power. Friends and lovers, if you have theories or you refuse to believe that characters die, even if they die on screen, hit us up in the DMs. I don't know. Do you have any general comments about expanding on the world? Do you think the film suffered? Well, you said it was tied first, so probably not. But do you feel like the film suffered because of expanding the world?
I don't think it suffered. I think it was interesting learning more about the table.
Okay. Sorry, I need to go back. I guess just like the Ostrich Ninja filler episode, I need to go back to expanding the world because we do have new characters and maybe this is the time to talk about them. I don't care for Marquis. And I also didn't know that Bill was doing a French accent until other characters were like, this Frenchman. I'm like, who the fuck are they talking about? But again, I can only speak English. I can try and pretend. If you don't speak Tongan, I speak Tongan as well. So I'm not going to knock, his accent. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that. But the fundamental qualm that I have with Marquis' character is he was the big man. So there was no, not that we needed to resonate with him, but he just bulldozed through every action.
Mm.
So we knew we weren't going to like him. We knew all of the big bad sort of actions would come out of him. And he just bulldozed every sort of situation he was in. And it was so heavy-handed.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't know. I feel like I appreciated key in this because he's something different we've not gotten in John Wick.
Yeah, a character lacking nuance.
No, he added some much needed evil trolling villain, which we never had. A face to the, even if he wasn't of the table.
He was giving me Pontius Pilate in Passion of the Christ.
Well, if you mean that he tried to talk sense into people.
And you know what? But you know what also really frustrated me as well? Do your own dirty work. The way that he delegated Kane to do like the final pistol showdown. Like at first, I would never believe, even with a compelling montage, I would never believe that Marquis would ever be able to take down John Wick. But I also wouldn't believe a chonky boy would be able to take down John Wick. So maybe I'm wrong in every sense. But I wouldn't believe he would be able to beat him up, but also there's a respectability, and maybe this is me prescribing to toxic masculinity, but there's a respectability if he had taken the final showdown himself.
Why would he though? He
But
doesn't need
that's
to.
my point.
He had a proxy. So he doesn't need to stand there and play cowboy.
Or just be 10 toes down about it. Be accountable for your own.
Bro, people at the top are barely accountable for shit.
Really? You're bringing real world politics into our fantasy film?
But it's true. They don't get their hands dirty. They get their minions to do it.
Okay, Riley. If you
Just get out of the way.
If you get the reference, friends and lovers, you get the reference.
I also just think I was imagining it, Pennywise.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man.
Those eyes.
When is he going to come out of the sewer?
If we're talking about other characters as well, I obviously have thoughts. You obviously know my thoughts. What were your thoughts on the tracker?
He was just us. He was the semblance of the audience in the movie.
100%.
Everything we felt like, oh, this is the reaction that it deserved. He'd do it.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Oh, you didn't like the tracker?
Nah, man.
Oh, wow.
Nah, you're not a part of this, bro. Like the tracker, they're all there with their little Chianti, sighing consequences into their wine, which is what I do on a daily. And then you have him on the side with his beer. And it's like, nah, bros, you're not a part of this.
No, but I think
his character didn't add to the film. And we love Shamir Anderson. I have a lot of time for this fella. However, his character, aside from the moments where he kind of reminded me of Willem Dafoe's character, right? Going back to earlier in the franchise. Like, he was there to make sure John Wick didn't die in very dire circumstances. Yeah. But aside from that, like, you're right, he becomes the vessel, the embodiment of audience reactions.
And I loved it. I love him. And we also got some dog action, some dog food.
I'm not going to lie.
Thanks to him.
I'm not going to lie. I teared up when John Wick saved the dog. Like, there are some things that will always be universally true to me, friends and lovers. But, I'm not going to hate on the track. If we're talking about characters, like new characters that I really enjoyed, Shimazu was great. Akira, I think, is going to play a larger role in the future films.
Probably a villain.
You reckon?
100%.
Okay, I know this is just me hating on like the new peeps, but Akira was a bit annoying because she kept like blaming everything on John Wick, and she's like, "Oh, it's your fault." What? That Shimazu was such a loyal friend? You can't blame John Wick for that.
Just the same way you're blaming our tracker for everything.
I'm not blaming him for everything. I just said he didn't need to be there.
Donnie Yen didn't get chance to slap his noodle as long as he wanted to see him eat the noodles.
Oh my.
Because of the tracker.
Where do I sign up to that mukbang OnlyFans? I don't know. We saw the tracker sketching John Wick in his book. I'll be sketching Donnie Yen in a turtleneck.
Nah, it was understandable to me. I think she just hated the fact that the dad had this close bond to John Wick.
But that's what I'm saying. It's just because we're being told the story from a particular point of view. But I'm like, you're being a brat, get lost.
No, she's not.
No, she's not. But it's like, we're here with John Wick and his friends. Everyone is sacrificed. That's how nice and beautiful John Wick is.
But it led to the death of the father. What the fuck, darling?
Okay, fine.
Hey, she wasn't wrong. John Wick brought disaster to the Continental.
He's not rogue.
Are you sure?
Perhaps.
Nah, I loved Akira as a character. I'm pretty sure she's gonna come back.
I loved her as a character. There were just moments where I'm like, let's be mature about this. Because I'm sure Akira has friends that she would lay her life down for. Especially being in the line of work that she's in. That's what I'm saying. But I would be very excited to see, future iterations with Akira in it. That's what I'm saying.
Nice.
Action. Is there anything else you want to say about the action scenes? Favorite ones?
Oh.
Doorbell. I love the doorbell one.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was great.
A lot of the Donnie Yen action scenes were spectacular. Because we're sort of used to John Wick by now.
Yeah.
We're sort of used to John Wick. It was nice and different.
It was a John Wick and Kane movie. And also Chonky Daddy. But aside from that, that's who the film was focusing on. And all of my favorite action sequences were Donnie Yen. And what I would say as well, which is, it's like a baby theme, but it's an adjacent theme. It's like respecting the game. Like, I haven't watched a lot of Kung Fu films. So we definitely have a lot of fun watching adventures together. And I'm not just talking about Wu-Tang and American Saga. That's expanding of the Kung Fu world, OT.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not privy to a lot of the action sort of genre, but you can tell there's a lot of love and there's a lot of respect that Stahelski brings to the John Wick franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly like you said, you don't take down a legend like Donnie Yen, right? But there was so much respectability in this film and for love of the genre as well.
100%.
Also, talking about the action, I did write something down. No one can hurt John Wick like John Wick can hurt himself.
and that's why I told you my disconnect started seeping in.
It became supernatural.
Is bro Goku here?
No, I was getting Michael Myers.
Yeah. Man, he jumped off the second story of a building, landed on a van, dented the van, fell down on the ground, got up as if it's nothing. Well, he limped for 2 seconds, got hit by a car multiple times. Guaranteed he can explain it as, he's trained, so he'd probably jump with the right angle and whatnot.
Because no suit is that strong.
There's so many moments where John Wick should be paralyzed at the least.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because everyone else is dying from normal falls.
Yeah, from pencils.
Yeah. Even our chonky daddy fell from what?
Yeah.
Not even fast floor.
No, but he wasn't dead after that. John Wick had to continue punching him in the head.
He fell on the stairs and died. And then John Wick just rolled up and took his teeth.
Oh, okay. So that was just for fun.
Bruh, I'm just telling you.
So even though you see tears, you're still all good.
Yeah, just don't make him invincible like that.
He's turning into Michael Myers though. I don't know if he's human anymore.
Or maybe there's still world building. Maybe he went to, he signed his soul to the devil and has some Jason powers or some shit.
Maybe. We're melding. We're going into horror now.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to end in, I guess, focusing more on what I love about this franchise, and it is an emotional theme. I want to talk about the moment where we have Winston's character, we have the Bowery King, but we're just going to call him Morpheus. Or I call him Furious from Boys in the Hood. And then we also have John Wick, and they're talking about what they want on their tombstones.
Yeah, loving husband, eh?
Yeah, but actually, before we talk about that, obviously life is timed in its own sort of timing. But like, I feel like they did Sharon dirty. Like, he got killed off so coldly, so abruptly. And I know that becomes the catalyst of a lot of the emotion in this film. But like, I felt like that was so cold and so abrupt in the film.
As soon as he refused to leave Winston's side, I was like, yeah, shit's going to happen to him. Because they made it so obvious that, oh, you shouldn't be here. This is my decision. It's not going to end well.
Yeah.
Because Winston isn't going to die. So...
yeah, I guess I wasn't really thinking about that. But so we have the friend and lover tombstones, I guess. So you have, John Wick's character talking about being a loving husband. I would, if I can be controversial, I would say him being a loving husband isn't even extended in this film. I would say this is more him being driven by friendship, if anything.
Well, he just wants to be remembered as a husband because that's all he holds dear in this.
But he's not continuing to fight because of that. He's continuing to fight for his friends. His friend and lover, Fu.
Whatever you say, man. All that falls the wayside when he dies because at the end of the day, all he wants or deems important in his life is him being a husband.
Okay. And then I'm pretty sure the Barrow King was something like "Long live the fucking king" or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I can have an NFT as my tombstone.
I'll put a QR code on it.
We're still paying off the plot. Please donate to our GoFundMe. We made some bad crypto decisions. Please donate.
Wow.
Ooh. This was a fun one. Hopefully you enjoyed us as well, friends and lovers. Joining us another week in the For Your Reference household. We're going to finish off in the segment week for Your Reference. OT.
Oh, I'm going to reference Ip Man. If you want to see Johnny Yang in his full glory, that's another great franchise.
Nice. I'm going to reference Spartacus.
Oh.
If you would like to enter the friend and lover Fu on Twitter and Instagram, we're at For Your Fun.
Write us an email at hello@podcast.com.
We're also on Chonky Daddy's podcast if you'd like to leave a rating and review. And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye.